Imagine this. It's a quiet suburban home in Lafayette, Louisiana, the year 2000. The clock strikes midnight, and a piercing scream shatters the silence. Not just any scream, a child's guttural wail, raw with terror, echoing words no toddler should know. Airplane crash. Plane on fire. Little man can't get out of the plane. It's hot. It won't go up. The parents bolt upright in bed, hearts pounding. Their 2-year-old son, James Leininger, thrashes in soaked sheets, eyes wide with a horror that doesn't belong to him. This isn't a nightmare from a cartoon or a bedtime story. It's a memory, a vivid, unrelenting replay of death. Night after night, it returns 5 times a week, turning their peaceful life into a battlefield of the mind. Bruce and Andrea Leininger, devout Christians from middle-class America, aren't the type to chase ghosts. Bruce is a no-nonsense HR executive. Andrea, a former dancer turned resume writer. They pray over their boy, consult doctors, even blame a Blue Angels video he watched obsessively. But deep down, they sense something extraordinary. What if this isn't imagination? What if it's a soul's echo from another time? In the shadows of history's greatest war, where young men flew into fire for freedom, one boy's cries would unearth a truth that defies science, faith, and forgetfulness. This is the story of James Leininger, not just a child, but a pilot reborn, a tale of reincarnation that would bridge worlds, heal wounds, and challenge everything we believe about life and what comes after. Welcome to the classified room, where America's hidden scandals and mysteries unfold. Today, he remembered a life that wasn't his. James Leininger entered the world on April 10, 1998, in San Francisco. A bouncing baby boy with chubby cheeks and a future as ordinary as apple pie. His family moved to Dallas, then Lafayette, chasing Bruce's job. At 22 months, during a family outing to the Cavanaugh Flight Museum, something stirred. James, barely walking steadily, froze before a World War II Corsair fighter plane. His tiny finger traced its fuselage, his eyes locked on its wings. "Airplane," he whispered, not with a child's wonder, but a veteran's reverence. He wouldn't leave until dragged away, screaming in protest. Weeks later, the dreams crashed in like kamikazes. It started innocently. James, obsessed with a Blue Angels VHS, would crash his toy planes into the coffee table, yelling, "Airplane crash on fire!" Propellers snapped, the table scarred. But the nights were hellish. Andrea would rush in, cradling her screaming son as he clawed at invisible flames. "Mommy, the plane's on fire!" "The little man can't get out," he'd sob, drenched in sweat. Doctors dismissed it as night terrors, common in toddlers. But James wasn't common. By 28 months, the fragments sharpened into a mosaic of memory. Over breakfast, he'd declare, "Before I was born, I was a pilot. My airplane got shot down by the Japanese." Bruce chuckled at first, his son, who couldn't tie his shoes, speaking of dogfights. But then came the specifics. "It was a Corsair," James said, naming a plane so niche, so tied to the Pacific Theater, that even aviation buffs might pause. He'd mime buckling into a cockpit, adjusting a helmet, fingers flying with muscle memory from decades past. Andrea's heart broke. "He's reliving his own death," she confided in her journal. The family turned to faith, prayers, pastors, but the screams persisted. Desperate, they reached out to Carol Bowman, author of Children's Past Lives. Her advice was simple yet revolutionary. Treat it as real. Acknowledge the past life is over. The boy is safe now. Miraculously, the nightmare's frequency halved. But the details, they demanded answers. Who was this little man trapped in fire? And why did a Louisiana toddler know the intimate agony of a warrior's end? As summer 2000 baked Louisiana, James's revelations poured out like monsoon rain. No longer confined to dreams, They spilled into daylight, casual as chatting about cartoons. "I flew off a boat," he announced one evening, stacking blocks into a makeshift carrier. The Natoma, it was American, not Japanese. Bruce, ever the skeptic, typed Natoma into their clunky dial-up. The screen flickered to life. USS Natoma Bay, an escort carrier from World War II's bloodiest theater, the Pacific. Launched in 1943, it ferried fighters into hellish skies over Iwo Jima and Okinawa. A printout, dated August 27th, 2000, weeks before James's third birthday, became their first artifact of the impossible. But James wasn't done. "My friend was Jack Larson," he added, eyes distant. "He flew next to me." Then, flipping through a picture book, he jabbed at an iconic image. Mount Suribachi on Iwo Jima, its black sands scarred by invasion. "That's where my plane crashed. Shot down there." Andrea's stomach twisted. Iwo Jima? The meat grinder where 7,000 Americans fell in 36 days? How could a child, sheltered from war's gore, pinpoint such a place? Playtime turned prophetic. James drew obsessively, hundreds of sketches of naval battles, planes dogfighting Zeeks and Bettys, Japanese Zero fighters and Betty bombers, terms he'd never heard. He'd label them meticulously. James 3, explaining, "I'm the third James. There was James 1 and James 2. Corsairs plummeted in flames. Carriers steamed through smoke. One drawing showed a pilot ejecting, parachute tangled, trapped, burning. The little man," James called him, voice cracking. Bruce dove deeper, scouring libraries and the nascent internet. No leads on Jack Larson, but the Natoma Bay's logs hinted at a squadron, VC-81, Wildcats and Avengers slicing through enemy lines. James corrected him once. "Daddy, Corsairs get flat tires when they land too hard." Aviation manuals confirmed it, a quirk of the plane's narrow gear. Coincidence? Or carried over knowledge from rubber-scorched decks? The family teetered on faith's edge. Pastors urged exorcism. Friends whispered overactive imagination. But when James, at 2.5, named his G.I. Joe dolls after dead friends, Billy, Walter, Leon, it felt like code from the beyond. These weren't guesses. They were ghosts demanding recognition. The puzzle was assembling, piece by fiery piece, toward a name long buried in Arlington's green. Bruce Leininger wasn't a man for mysteries. A pilot himself in his youth, he craved facts. Spreadsheets, timelines, proof. But his son's words gnawed at him like shrapnel. "If this is real," he told Andrea, "we owe it to James to chase it down." So began an odyssey that would drag a corporate dad into veterans' halls and microfiche vaults, unearthing a scandal not of politics, but of the soul. First stop, the USS Natoma Bay Survivors Reunion, 2002. Bruce flew solo, printout in hand, nerves jangling. Gray-haired flyboys swapped yarns over coffee, tales of kamikazes and carrier shakes. "Ever lose a pilot named James?" Bruce asked, eyes widened. "Jimmy Houston," one rasped. "Our only casualty off Iwo Jima. March 45. Shot down over Chichijima's harbor. Plane exploded midair. No chute, no wreckage. James McReady Houston Jr., age 21, from Uniontown, Pennsylvania. A farm boy's son, wild-eyed idealist, who enlisted post-Pearl Harbor. Trained on Corsairs in Florida, shipped to the Natoma Bay for VC-81 Squadron. His logbook read like prophecy, missions over Iwo, escorting bombers, tangling with Zeeks. On March 3, 1945, Houston's FM-2 Wildcat, armed for strafing, took flak to the engine. Eyewitnesses saw it belch smoke, cartwheel into the sea in a fireball. "Little man couldn't get out," a gunner later confirmed. The words hit Bruce like a torpedo. Back home, he showed James a squadron photo. The boy lit up. "That's my friend Jack Larson. Not exact John M. Larson flew wingman that day, but close enough to chill spines. James pointed to Houston. That's me. Then, unprompted, I had a sister named Annie. Houston's sibling, Ann Barron, alive in California. Doubt crept in. Houston's plane was a Wildcat, not Corsair, but photos from Ann showed young Jimmy posing with a Corsair stateside. And the flat tire quirk? Natoma vets nodded. Corsairs were notorious for it during training. Bruce pored over aircraft action reports, declassified in the 90s. Page 32. Houston's flight path. Larson beside him. Crash confirmed. No leading questions, just eerie alignment. The search consumed them. James's nightmares synced with March 3rd. Anniversary spikes of terror. Bruce taped everything. An ABC News interview in June 2002, pre-Houston ID, where 4-year-old James declared, "My plane got shot in the engine by the Japanese. It crashed in the water. That's how I died." The producer's notes? Pristine evidence. Time-stamped before revelation. This wasn't debunkable fancy. It was a classified file cracking open, revealing Reincarnation's raw underbelly. Proof isn't handed on silver wings. It's forged in fire and forgotten letters. For the Liningers, it arrived in waves. First a voice, then a face, then a sister's tear-streaked nod. At another Natoma reunion, 2003, James, now 5, toddled in. The room hushed as Bob Greenwalt, a grizzled radio man, greeted him. No intro. James froze, then beamed. "I know your voice. You radioed me when I was shot down." Greenwalt paled. "Kid, that was Jimmy Houston. I called his plane Big Jim, flaming out over the harbor." Veterans encircled the boy like a squadron formation. "Tell us about the mission," one urged. James rattled off details. "We flew low over the islands, dropping bombs on trains." Zeke's came from the clouds. Accurate, VC-81's logs matched the strafing run. He named the dead. Billy Peeler went down first off the Solomons. Peeler, Houston's squadron mate, lost in 44. Walter Devlin, engine quit over truck. Devlin, confirmed kill. Leon Connor, bailout over Formosa. Connor ditched at sea. No books, no prompts, just a child's unfiltered archive. The clincher, Ann Barron. Bruce cold called Houston's 84-year-old sister, voice trembling. "Your brother drew a painting as a boy, Indians on horseback." Ann gasped. "How?" James had described it unbidden. Jimmy drew horses and teepees. Private, family lore. Then the gut punch. "Your dad drank too much after the war." Ann broke. "Jimmy never told a soul. He protected us." Phobias aligned too. James's terror of bath plugs, Houston's drowning fear, and red nails, mother's wartime habit. In 2004, ABC Primetime aired their story, raw footage of James sketching his death. Skeptics howled. Coincidence. Cryptomnesia from TV. But timeline sealed it. Natoma printout predated any Houston whisper. ABC tape captured Corsair claims before Wildcat correction. Even the plane mismatch dissolved. Houston logged 50 Corsair hours pre-deployment. By 2005, the Liningers penned Soul Survivor, a bestseller peeling back Reincarnation's veil. James's drawings adorned its pages, testaments to a war 55 years cold, now thawed in a boy's hands. This wasn't scandalous graft or Watergate whispers. It was deeper. America's unspoken bargain with the dead, returning not as specters, but sons. Reincarnation isn't tidy. It's a storm of what-ifs and half-healed scars. For James, the memories brought gifts and ghosts. At 6, the nightmares ebbed, but echoes lingered. A hatred for showers, drowned like the crash. A love for flight sims where he'd reenact dogfights flawlessly. I chose you, he told his parents once, describing a heavenly waiting room with Billy, Walter, Leon, souls picking families like seats on a plane. I saw you in Hawaii at the hotel with the red roof. Veridical. The Leiningers honeymooned at Turtle Bay Resort, crimson shingles gleaming, no prior tales, just a toddler's impossible postcard from the afterlife. Andrea wrestled angels and doubts. Was God punishing us? She'd whisper. But Carol Bowman's sessions grounded them. Past lives as chapters, not curses. Bruce, once anti-reincarnation, the Bible says once and done, evolved. Science bent here, he admitted in interviews. Facts don't lie. For the Houstons, closure bloomed bittersweet. Ann Barron, meeting James in 2005, clutched his hands. You're my brother returned. She shared letters, Jimmy's homesick scrawls from 44. Tell Mom I dream of home. James nodded. I miss the farm. No acting, pure resonance. The families merged in grief's quiet forge, toasting fallen wings at Arlington's shadow. Yet shadows loomed. Critics like philosopher Paul Kurtz labeled it self-deception. Parents priming a suggestible mind. Online debunkers pored over timelines, sniffing fraud. But Jim Tucker's 2016 study in Explore Journal dismantled them. Pre-ID docs, independent vets, emotional authenticity. No monetary gain, just a quest for peace. James, now a teen Eagle Scout, shelves the past. It was real, he says at 12, but I'm James Leininger now. The wounds? They scarred into strength, a boy's proof that death's door swings both ways. James Leininger's story isn't isolated. It's a flare in reincarnation's vast sky. UVA's Division of Perceptual Studies logs 2,500 cases. Kids recalling lives cut short, verified by birthmarks matching wounds, statements predating Google. But James, he's gold standard. American, documented, defiant of debunk. Why him? Why now in our skeptical age? Psychologists posit cryptomnesia, subconscious scraps from documentaries. Yet no corsairs grace the Kavanaugh Museum during James's visit. No Iwo Jima books in their home. Neurologists eye temporal lobe quirks, but ignore the precision. 21 phobias, 50 flight hours echoed, squadron names ungoogled till 2002. It's as if the universe filed a motion, souls recycle for unfinished business. Houston, dead at 21, returned to live the peace he fought for. Eagle Scout badges over dog tags. In the classified room's vault of scandals, this eclipses Enron or Epstein. It's existential espionage. If reincarnation's true, heaven's no pearly gate. It's a conveyor of lessons. James teaches us mortality's myth, war's echo and innocence. His final pilgrimage, 2009 off Chichijima. At 11, he scattered flowers where wreckage sank. Goodbye, old me, he whispered. Nightmares, vanished. Drawings, tamed as sunsets. Skeptics take note. Verification came from foes. Japanese archives, U.S. Navy logs. Not faith, but forensics. In a world of deep fakes and denial, James's analog truth, a child's cry piercing veils. What scandals hide in your dreams? Today, James Leininger thrives, 17 when last chronicled. Piloting drones, not demons. Soul survivor endures, a beacon for parents of remembers. The Leiningers, forever changed. Faith fused with wonder. Skepticism softened by sun. Ann Barron passed in 2017, whispering, Jimmy's home. This tale from America's classified corners reminds, scandals aren't just files, they're fractures in the human story. Reincarnation? Not woo-woo, but witness. Souls looping to love harder, fight fairer. If James can bridge 1945 to 2000, what bridges await you? Thank you for unlocking the classified room. Like subscribe for more unearthed truths. Comment, Ever had a memory that wasn't yours? Next, the Roswell Files Declassified. Until then, listen to the whispers.